The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. Chapter 18. When I arrive at the leak the next evening, White Hands is seated on a small carpet, a bronze goblet of the potent local palm wine in hand. It's been a warmer Himarian day than usual, and the smell of night jasmine wraps everything in a haze of sweetness. The scent so intoxicates me, it takes some seconds before I see the weapons laid out beside White Hands, their metal glinting in the low evening light. Panic beats a heightened pulse in my veins, pushing away the thoughts that have been plaguing me all day. My conversation with Karmoko Thandawe, my doubts about who my father is. All I can see now are those weapons, gleaming sinisterly in the fading light. Neophytes are required to use wooden weapons for the first 2 months, and the end of my second month isn't even near yet. I'm only supposed to use metal weapons in the third month, as I prepare to go out on raids. And yet, here is an array of metal weapons, clearly meant for use. 1,000 questions suddenly flit across my mind. What exactly did White Hands mean when she said, the most demanding raids? And why has she chosen us four, Britta, Belcalis, Gazal, and me, to accomplish them? I glance at the 3 other girls, not surprised to see that they're all unnerved too, except, of course, for Britta, whom I told about White Hand's surprise arrival last night. Evening greetings, Karmoko, she says with a wide grin, kneeling quickly to White Hands. White Hand's mouth quirks into a smile. Evening greetings, Britta, she replies. Then she turns to the rest of us. You're all on time. Wonderful. I hate latecomers. Don't you? When we look at each other, unsure of how to respond, she rises, dusting herself off. She's wearing the sedate brown robes of a Karmoko, and I'm not surprised to find they suit her even better than her old traveling blacks ever did. She walks over, nods at us. I am your new Karmoko, she announces. You may call me Karmoko, or Karmoko White Hands. I'm very fond of that name. She winks at me as she says this. I quickly bow. Evening's greetings, Karmoko White Hands, I say, echoing the other girls. Evening's greetings, she returns. Then she spots us watching the weapons. You've noticed my teaching tools. Wonderful. As you may have heard, I've specially selected you all to go on certain raids for the Wadubera, and consequently, I feel there's no point insulting your natural abilities by giving you practice swords and weaponry to train with. The 4 of you are Alaki. You can, and already have faced worst. Mostly. She glances at Britta when she says this, and Britta blushes, embarrassed at being singled out. That's why I've decided to hold these lessons. Now that I'm here, it's time I molded the champions of this school. Champions? Belcalis repeats. White Hands doesn't answer. She's now walking over to Gazal, an expression of concern on her face. I frown as I see the same thing she has. Gazal's forehead shines with sweat, and her eyes are slightly unfocused. She's staring at the lake, as pale as a ghost. I almost wonder if she's sick, but Alaki don't get sick. Once our blood begins changing, we become immune to most illnesses, our bodies fighting them and healing just as fast as they do everything else. You don't look at all well, White Hands says softly. Gazal, is it not? Yes, Karmoko, Gazal nods, her eyes flicking to the water. As White Hand's eyes follow Gazal's gaze, a calculating expression surfaces. She casually takes the novice by the elbow. Why don't we go over to the lake, cool you off? No! The word barks from Gazal's lips, and she jerks herself out of White Hand's hands. A quiet knowing rises in our new Karmoko's eyes. It's the lake, isn't it? When Gazal doesn't respond, she repeats her words. Isn't it, novice? Gazal reluctantly nods. Why? Gazal shakes her head frantically, that frightened expression taking over. My eyes widen, watching her. I've never seen her unnerved before. I can't. I. You have to say it in order to overcome it, White Hands insists calmly. The lake can't change. And I certainly won't, so whatever it is, you have to address it now so we can move on with our lesson. Please, Gazal whimpers, her eyes fixed on the dark water. Please what? Please, I don't want to be near that. I don't want... I've never seen Gazal so distraught. I didn't even know it was possible. I suddenly feel deeply uneasy, as if I'm witnessing something I shouldn't. This isn't right, Britta whispers beside me. I nod. White Hands likes to play with people, but this is a shade too far. Her expression is implacable now as she turns to Gazal. Why don't you want to be near the water? She asks, and then adds, I can't do anything if you don't tell me why. Gazal only shakes her head, her eyes wilder. The thought of talking about it obviously terrifies her. Very well, White Hand says, grabbing her by the arm. She drags her toward the lake. No, no! Gazal shrieks, digging her feet in, but White Hands is unyielding. She keeps pulling Gazal closer and closer until finally the novice can't take it anymore. They lock me inside it, she screamed. Gazal collapses, tears falling from her eyes. She's sobbing so hard her entire body is racked by the force of her cries. They locked me in a cage under the lake. They thought I would die, but I didn't. I just kept drowning. Tears are pouring down her face, and her whole body shudders. Over and over and over and... White Hand grabs her up. Who are they? She asks. My family, Gazal sobs. White Hand shakes her head. Your blood sisters are your family. Who are they? The House of Agarwal, Gazal answers, confused. Tears are still pouring from her eyes. White Hand grips her by the hair, pulls her along. I said, who are they? I can no longer watch. White Hands, please stop, I say, hurrying over. You don't have to frighten her. White Hands turns to me, her eyes deadly calm. Interrupt me, Deca. Any of you interrupt, and I will deliver you pain such as you have never before imagined. We all step back horrified. White Hands continues pulling Gazal by the hair, not even budging when Gazal fights so hard her feet dig into the lake's muddy banks. She pushes Gazal's down until her head is nearly to the water. Who are they? She roars. No one, Gazal wails, finally understanding. They are no one. Please, Carmoko, they are nothing to me anymore. This answer satisfies White Hands. She releases Gazal's hair, then walks back over and selects a sword. She looks down at it, her eyes considering the blade. If you had a sword in those days, no one would have been able to do that to you. She walks over, flings the sword at Gazal's feet. You have one now. What will you do? Trembling, Gazal picks up the sword, looks from White Hands back to it. White Hand picks up the rest of the weapons and hands them to us, giving Britta the warhammer last. Finally, she turns back to Gazal and nods. You can come at me, but that would be a very short venture. Or you can choose. She waves to us. Choose an opponent. I know almost instinctively whom Gazal is going to choose. She whispers, her voice going cold as she points at me. I choose her. White Hands claps, delighted. Excellent choice, novice. Deca is the perfect opponent for you. Gazal approaches, murder in her eyes, and something stills me, a subtle shifting as my senses sharpen. I take a step back, take a deep breath, and tighten my grasp on my sword. Gazal's out for blood. I can tell just by looking. Nevertheless, I'm ready for her. As Kamerko Huan always say, first rule of combat, be prepared to engage at all times. I widen my stance as White Hand nods to Gazal. Have at her, she says. Gazal rushes me so fast. I move only seconds before her sword slices where my neck would have been. Surprise rips a gasp from my throat. She's not just out for my blood. She's out for my head. The easiest way to kill an Alaki. But I'm prepared to die in combat, just as Kamerko Huan taught me. And more to the point, I already know that beheading is not my final death. I use the reminder to breathe, to focus on tracking Gazal as she attacks me again, her assaults lightning fast. In her combat state, Gazal is like the wind, the fastest Alaki in the Warthu Bera, now that Katya's gone. That means I have to be smarter, or if I'm not careful, this lesson will end with her taking my head. Watch out, Deka, Britta calls. I whirl, following this cry to find Gazal already at my back. I've mere seconds to jerk away before she can thrust her sword through my stomach. I dodge, but I'm still not fast enough. The sword slices into my forearm and I wince, clenching my teeth against the white sweet pain. Gold springs up, stinging the wound. I ignore it. I felt worse pain than this, experienced many worse things. This is only a scratch, I tell myself. White Hands laughs, raising her cup in a toast to me. Conquer or die, Deka. Either way, you learn your lesson. The word reverberates through my body, a reminder that I've many other such lessons in the past month. Lessons aimed at teaching me survival, no, victory, against all odds. Conquer or die. I'm not dying again. Not today, anyway. I look at Gazal, her body seemingly overtaken by the wildness, shimmering in her eyes. There'll be no reasoning with her. No talking. Gazal needs to purge her pain, and I'm the one she's selected to help her do so. The honorable thing I can do is fight. Win. Conquer. I lift my sword. Attempt me, I say. Gazal does so with a scream. When she lunges, however, I whirl to the side and slam the pommel of my sword into her skull. She only barely manages to grab my sleeve before she slumps down, unconscious. It'll be at least an hour before she wakes up, judging from the size of the knot on her head. White Hands walks over, clapping. Splendid, splendid. Such quick thinking, Deka. I slump, my entire body shaking now. Simply masterful. I knew I made the right choice. Choice? This question comes from Belcalis. She spent the entire battle in quiet contemplation, as is her habit. Why her? Why us? Of all the girls in the Warthu Bera, Kamoko, she asks. White Hand shrugs. You have rage. Deep wells of it, she replies. Then she points at a still unconscious Gazal. That one has pain. An entire lake's worth, as you just saw. It's Britta's turn now, and White Hand's finger points towards her. That one is strong, loyal, and will do what must be done. As Britta blinks in surprise, White Hands turns to me. And that one, she says, that one is unnatural. There it is again. That hated word, unnatural. But I don't feel the same shame and nausea I used to. Now that I know my ability has value, my main reaction is curiosity. White Hands knows where my ability comes from. I already guessed this back in the Irfut, but now I know it for a fact. That's why she's using the word to describe me. It's not a condemnation, it's a truth. What do you mean, unnatural? I ask. What exactly am I? Am I even a Laki? This last question rushes out of me, a fear I've kept so deeply hidden. I've never even acknowledged it until now. An amused smile curls up on White Hand's lips. Are you even a Laki? She laughs. What a silly question to ask, Deca. Of course you are. You're the most valuable Alaki in all of the Warthu Bera. I frown at her, confused by this declaration, and she takes a step closer, peers down at me. Of all the girls here, only you have the ability to command death shrieks. Even though I already know this, the confirmation still comes as a shock, as do other realization. If White Hands knows about my ability, then she's probably aware of what I was far back as Earthroot. Might have been searching for me then, which means she knew about me, knew what I was. Does this mean there are other girls like me? I dismissed the possibility, but now I'm not so sure. All I know is that White Hands has the answers I seek. Are you the benefactor? I blurt out. All day I've been thinking about it. The mysterious benefactor Karmoko Thwandwe said helped Mother escape. I thought it was one of the Karmokos at the Warthu Bera during that time, or perhaps even a Jatu or an official, but what if it was White Hands? She's a noble. She has money, power, the ability to transport people wherever she likes. Are you the one who helped my mother escape the Warthu Bera? White Hands just blinks. Your mother was in the Warthu Bera. Fascinating. She says it in that non-committal way of hers, so I can't tell whether she's lying or not. All I know is that she's no more than she's telling. What do you know about me? About what I am, I plead. She shrugs. I know that you're using your power exhaust you, that you become vulnerable after using it. I know that you are valuable to us, to this fight. Blood drums in my ears. Valuable to us? The way she says those words looks so meaningful at me. I know exactly what she's thinking. She intends to use my ability during the campaign. She intends to expose it for everyone to see. My muscles clench into knots. My breath comes out in spurts. A primal will begins building somewhere deep inside me. But White Hands clicks her jaws, forcing my mind back to the present. I know you have questions, Deca, she says, and I will answer them all before the campaign is over, but for now, know that I won't put you in harm's way. Just like that, the wail dissipates, and I can breathe again. If there's one thing I know about White Hands, it's that she's a woman of her word, even though her intentions are always murky. She turns to Britta. You asked me why you were chosen. It's for this. To protect Deca during her vulnerable periods, to keep her from being hurt during that time. She points at Britta's warhammer. With that warhammer, Britta, you will be Deca's protector, her truest ally. Britta looks down at the hammer, her brows knitted into a frown. That's why you took me, she says slowly. That's why you brought us together. White Hands does not bother to deny it. As the strongest representatives of the Warthu Bera, you four will be sent on the most difficult raids. The ones where the death shrieks are more numerous or cunning, where the terrain is more unforgiving, the ones where Deca's voice is required. She glances across our faces, her eyes finally resting on Britta. Not only are you strong, Britta, you truly care for Deca, which is why she needs you. A protector to keep her safe. A friend to keep her sane in the horror of the coming months. Are you up to that task? I turn to Britta, my questions about White Hands pushed aside by an even more important emotion, fear. What if she's frightened of me? What if she hates me for putting her in such a dangerous situation? It's an irrational thought, I know, but the mere specter of it is so painful. I can barely breathe. But then Britta hefts the hammer and smiles. Deca and I are blood sisters. We belong together. White Hand smiles. I am glad to hear it. Now she turns to Belcalis. And you, Belcalis of Hualpa. What are your thoughts? Belcalis snorts. I don't know what all this nonsense about Decca's value is, but I just want to survive my turn so I can leave this place. If Decca can help us defeat the Death Shrieks faster, I'll protect her as well, she says, walking over to Britta and me. Relief shudders through me, so sudden it almost makes my knees buckle. Belcalis doesn't hate me either. She's still my friend. White Hand smiles. I thought you might. After all, you, more than anyone else, understand the pain Decca endured. It is the same you've endured. You, more than anyone else, understand what needs to be done. Suddenly now I remember the scars on Belcalis' back, the ones that masked over each other like a map. They've faded now, but I will never forget them. Never forget that she suffered just as much as I did. Belcalis nods curtly, and White Hands continues, In the meantime, keep Decca's secret among this group. Only you and the Carmocos know, and we would like to keep it that way for now. When the others nod, giving their word, she picks up a sword and considers it. Now then, which of you wants to attempt me?